Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today in the program, I speak with musician George Banda. You know, I think a lot of people who know who George is and a lot of people that are in the artist community of Charlotte, you know, when you see this pop up, you know, on your iTunes feed, Google Play, or SoundCloud, YouTube, Vimeo, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, you know, and you see George's name pop up and you know who he is, I'm sure you're pretty excited to listen to this conversation, because I see George pretty much on a regular basis every week at the Evening Muse and seeing him perform at the open mic that they do, where I do the 5-minute podcast. And George, every time he hits the stage, it's such a wonderful treat. And just seeing him just bring a hush over the room, over him expressing his art of music on stage and how soulful and how from the heart it comes. It's amazing to see, you know, because sometimes these open mics, people get a little chatty. They get a little chatty and people just kind of get on stage and they just treat it like, oh, that's background noise, you know what I'm saying? But when George hits a stage, he just, by the time he leaves, there's not a talking soul in the building, just because of his music and where he's coming from. People recognize that he's pouring out his soul in his music, and it just brings a hush over to the room. And I'll tell you what, as a comedian, it's very hard to follow too. Like, you don't want to follow George Banda with like dick jokes, that's for sure. But anyways, I'm very happy to sit down and talk with George. And we did this conversation just outside of the patio at the Broken Spoke, just off the South End, you know, so you could probably hear a couple cars and a couple people leaving and stuff like that. But it was just such a wonderful pre-fall night to have a wonderful conversation. And I think George even said it, like, this is a wonderful conversation and this is a moment we may never have again, or we will, but we should cherish the moment that we're in. You know, that's how in-depth this conversation got. And I'm very glad that it got recorded and we get to share it with the rest of you guys and stuff like that. Because, you know, if you don't know who George is, you know, hopefully this podcast gets you a better understanding of who he is and where he comes from as an artist. This is a very good conversation between two artists and the insecurities we face, the challenges we face, you know, and how do we push forward through the world. So, of course, my art being comedy and professional wrestling, and of course, George's art being creating fantastic music. And right now, he's got a CD out right now, so I highly recommend that you look him up. He gives all the links to that in the podcast and stuff like that. It's out there online and floating around, so please check him out. Just search for George Banda, and you will not be disappointed for sure. But anyways, I'm very excited to bring this podcast to you today, but I'm also just as excited to be a part of the Shining Wizards Podcast Network. I can't thank them enough for getting this podcast out to as many eyeballs and earbuds in the world. I can't thank them enough for spreading the message of what I've got going on over here. So thank you very much to everyone over the Shining Wizards Network, and make sure you check out all the podcasts they have over there. They are available at theshiningwizardsnetwork.com. Also, big thank you to my producer Don and all the podcasts that he produces, especially the other podcast that I do called How Did This Get Booked with Zane Riley, where we watch less than fantastic wrestling shows with a non-wrestling fan and discuss them. But anyways, for more information about the podcast that Don produces, you can just look up dsct.tv for more information about all of those podcasts that Don produces over there. But also, too, I've got a couple dates I want to give you guys some heads up on. I don't have as many dates as I normally do because we're getting towards the end of September, which September has been beating the crap out of me. It was very hard just to even cut this intro. I don't even have enough time to cut a 5-minute intro. That's how busy September's being. But we're seeing a little bit of light at the tunnel. Things will slow down a little bit in October, and then it'll kick back up at the end of October. It seems like the end of these months are really the roughest part for me. But got a couple more dates here in September, and I'm going to give you a couple October things to let you know about, and a couple of further in advance stuff, because I know you guys don't listen to these podcasts in too timely of a fashion. So I want to give you some more than enough headway, heads up on some very interesting shows that I'm producing, or Nick Alexander or some other people are producing in the future. So I'm going to try and jump ahead to some like really important stuff and not bog you down too much with like the day-to-day stuff that I'm doing, because I understand I'm busy and you probably don't want to hear about it. I'm like, don't really need to hear about you doing this or doing that. Just give me the big ones, Jake. But I'm going to try and give you as much good stuff as I possibly can, because there's a lot of great local art, local wrestling, local comedy, local improv, all kinds of great and fantastic stuff out there. And I just want you guys to be engaged in the local communities in your area that are presenting off some great performances. So anyways, most notably, if you were listening to this podcast in a timely fashion, this Wednesday, September 21st, the Comedy Couch Party is happening at Tuft in Plaza Midwood in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yes, Tuft is a furniture store in Plaza Midwood, hence why it is the Comedy Couch Party. Can't tell you guys how fantastic this show was the last time it happened. Yes, we will be doing comedy in a furniture store in Plaza Midwood here in Charlotte, North Carolina, this Wednesday, September 21st. You do not want to miss it, I promise you. This will be a fantastic show, just like last time. Unbelievable. I think Mo Aurora will be there, as well as several other funny local comedians as well. So make sure you show up for that. And I will be hosting it, so you get to see plenty of me. So make sure you show up this Wednesday, September 21st, at Tuft Furniture Store in Plaza Midwood in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now this Thursday, September 22nd, I'll be with Big Time Wrestling in Morganton, North Carolina at the Colette Rec Center. Make sure you show up for that. And also, too, if you can't make that show, make sure you show up to Friday, September 23rd. I will also be with Big Time Wrestling in Raleigh, North Carolina at the historic Dorton Arena. And the big names that'll be on both of those shows will be Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, and Cody Rhodes. So you get a Rhodes, a Steamboat, and a Flair on these two shows. One ticket price, guys. One ticket price, and you get 3 of some of the biggest names in professional wrestling will be appearing on these cards. So I highly recommend that you show up to either Raleigh or Morganton, North Carolina this weekend, this Thursday and Friday. This will be an event you most certainly don't want to miss, especially the Raleigh one, the historic Dorton Arena. But we were the first wrestling show to come into that building in decades last time, and now we're making our return, and it sounds like it's going to be an even bigger event. And also to Morganton, kind of a small building. Get your tickets right now. Log on to btwpro.com and get your tickets. I guarantee you, even though it is a Thursday show, Morganton will sell out. So make sure you jump on that bandwagon right there. Anyways, next Wednesday, September 28th, I will be on the Almost Famous Comedy Show, which is hosted by former Stranger in the Southern Land guest Blair Nias, and OG Stranger in the Southern Land guest, that is. She was one of the earlier episodes that I've had, so I'm very excited to finally do her show. Her show's been booked up for quite some time, so I'm very happy to be a part of the Almost Famous Comedy Show, which is happening at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte, North Carolina. For more information about that show, make sure you log on to cltcomedyzone.com. And of course, that is happening Wednesday, September 28th. Now, as I've been, plugging last couple months, I've been doing the all organic open mic. I'm hosting that at the Evening Muse. Well, I've lucked out and I've got some really good dates coming up for you guys right now, and I want to let you guys know about them in more than enough time. So I want to let you know about in October, Saturday, October the 1st, I'll be running the all organic open mic, and that will be a 10:30 show, and that is a Saturday night, guys. So Noda's a big time, big place that people like to go to and walk around in Charlotte, North Carolina. So if you live in the Charlotte area or close to the region, stuff like that, show up a little bit early, walk around Noda, get some food at Cabo Fish Taco, get some drinks at Growlers or whatever you do down there, and then wander over to the Evening Muse for the all organic open mic at 10:30, and I'll be having a feature act. I'll be releasing that name very soon and stuff like that, just trying to hammer that out. But I already know about my next date after the October date. Is the November date, just happens to fall on Election Day. Yes, that's right. I'm going to be running a comedy show Election Day, November 8th, an 8:30 show too. And I have already got the featured act booked. That is Tom Simmons. Guys, if you don't know who Tom Simmons is, you are not paying attention to comedy. That is for sure. When I knew that I drew this date on Election Day, because most people didn't want Election Day. Nobody wanted to book that day, but I wanted to book that day, and I got that day. I'll be running a comedy show on Election Day. Who knows? It might be the last comedy show ever allowed. I don't know what's going to happen politically, but one thing is for sure, I'll be running a comedy show November 8th Show doors will be at 8 p.m. Show will be at 8:30, and my featured act will be Tom Simmons. When I knew that I had this date, I couldn't think of anybody better who I wanted to be on this show. Trust me, if things take a bad turn that night, and they might, I don't know, Tom Simmons will definitely make me feel better about the next 4 years. So, anyways, make sure you show up for all the organic, comedy organic open mics. Excuse me. Having a hard time getting through these intros and stuff like that. I'm already thinking what could happen in November. Maybe that's why I'm stumbling and bumming. Who knows? I've already got gloom and doom on my head. But anyways, for more information about the All Organic Open Mic, make sure you log on to theeveningmuse.com for more information about that. And as always, any changes or any things that come up between now and then, or any more information about the rest of these shows, make sure you follow me on social media. And that is very easy to do. I'm available on Twitter at ManScoutManning and on Instagram at ManScoutManning. If you have a question about the podcast, or if you want to become a sponsor of this podcast, make sure you email me at jake@sslshow.com. Or if you want to book me for an upcoming wrestling event, make sure you email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. Anyways, without further ado, let's jump into this wonderful conversation that I have with George Banda outside in the patio on a pre-fall night in Charlotte, North Carolina, here on Stranger in a Southern Land.
Okay, this is post-production edits. Blooper reel.
Should I definitely edit that out then?
Absolutely. You gotta edit that out.
Well, tell you what, I'll just take it up when I said I gotta edit that out, and we'll just leave some mystery to it. How about that? Like, what did Jake say that was so awful that made George blush and said it has to be edited out?
I did kind of blush, and because I don't have any blush or have any foundation on my head, it made me sweat a little bit. Now look, I'm shiny.
Shiny. It's okay. I'm shiny too. Yeah, this is the shiny. This is the shiny podcast.
Hi.
We can be shiny as we want to be.
All right.
But George Banda.
Banda. Yes.
Okay. That's always how usually this podcast starts. Is I try and accurately pronounce the guy's name.
Got it.
Banda.
Ah,
goodness. Where is that from?
I am from Arizona, but my family's from Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Like my heritage and my lineage just goes back to Mexico. So I am second generation American.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. I am American.
Quite enjoy being American, at least for now. This interview is happening pre-November. Pre-November.
Oh God. Yeah, Donald Trump. Oh Lord. Hillary Clinton's just as bad though.
I know, right?
I cannot stand Hillary Clinton. She is terrible. She is the worst.
I feel like I could live with Gary Johnson not knowing where Aleppo is.
Right. Because who knew where Aleppo was? Right.
Nobody did.
No one knew. Please, you all know that. Don't even play.
Everybody knows now. Yeah, obviously.
Right.
You know
that kid, that picture, and that like it sends shockwaves through me. I remember like that with the kid sitting on the orange chair,
mm-hmm.
and that was Aleppo. That was a hard thing to watch, but. Anyways, when it comes to politics, Hillary and Donald Trump, terrible. Yes. Both of them.
Exactly. We just want better. We want better for ourselves.
We do want better, and we're educated now, and we have, we have an understanding of what's going on in the political realm, and we're not in a bubble, so we get it. So.
Yeah, we've got opinions, and we want to express them.
Absolutely.
And put people on podcasts and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But George,
yes,
I have really, really wanted to sit down and talk with you. Not so much about Hillary and Trump, but but about you personally. Like, I've seen you. Like, I go to the Evening Muse just about every Monday. You're at the Evening Muse every Monday here in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Find Your Muse open mic, and I am always blown away by your performances.
Thank you.
Like really, you as a songwriter, guitar player, you always, no matter how many times I've heard it, it always moves me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You play from such a very honest place and deep place in your heart. Have you always been such a thoughtful, person throughout your entire life?
Yeah, I think it's important. First of all, let me answer you that playing honestly is something that I feel like we've lost a little bit in our culture. Being able to play from your heart, being able to play from your own emotions, play, and not that all people have done it. No, I believe there's a lot of that going on. However, I believe a vast majority of people have become aware of how to market a sound and reproduce it and mass produce it. You kind of lose that genuine feel to an artist. So coming from me, I always do the best that I can to relate to the songs that I'm singing. And if I don't relate to a song, that even if I wrote it, I won't sing it anymore. I think it's important to always have some connection with. So that's what I try to come across as when it comes to, performing and singing. I want to make sure that I'm very honest with myself, and I love being like that. It's scary at first, but it's the most liberating and freeing thing that you can do, is being able to, when I strum that chord and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I'm feeling in this moment, and being able to portray that to a crowd is one of the real joys of being an artist. So.
Well, as being an artist, like I said, and trying to express that, like, when did you first realize that? Was as a kid, like
yeah, since I was a little kid with a big head and a little body, my dad put a guitar in my hands at 5, and
it was right there. There's like, this is how I will express myself.
Absolutely, the guitar became my best friend.
Okay.
Every place I went, I had a guitar with me. Every dirt road I went back, I had my guitar flying around in the back of my '64 Ford pickup. So the guitar is always that. Part of me is an extension of me, and it was since I was little. I had it with me. So,
well, like did it come natural to you? Because it took me a while for me to kind of figure out where and how I was going to express myself in life and the things that I do, and like a lot of ups and downs. And I tried to play guitar for a short period of time, and I realized very quickly it was not for me. Very, very quickly, like right away, because they always say, "Oh, well, just work harder at it." I'm like, no, I feel like if you don't get something right away, you're probably not going to be the best at it, or you're probably not going to be good at it. Like that's always my feeling about it.
There's some of that. I believe that everyone can play an instrument, or everyone has a rhythm, everyone has a sound, and finding
I disagree with that fact. I tried playing bass guitar for a while. That was my major problem. I had no rhythm.
So finding that niche where you fit in a musical instrument or a musical world, I think that's important as well. The guitar isn't for everyone, just like the violin isn't for everyone or the piano isn't for everyone. Finding what really resonates within you is probably the most important thing. And for me, when I first started to play the guitar, that was where I was home, if that makes sense. That's where I felt grounded. And so I always would do that as a little kid. I remember some of my earliest memories were of me hearing these melodies in my head and being in my bed and kind of, so like kind of letting them play out and hearing the orchestra, and then coming when I got a guitar, like, yeah, absolutely. When I was able to like put my hands on something, it was very natural to me to just kind of recreate what I was hearing in my head.
See, like you're probably like, I've only had a small handful of musicians on this podcast, mostly because when it gets down to talking about music, I'm clueless. But every one of them say, and they talk about, just like what you said, like they'll hear music and then they'll like, okay, now I have my instrument and I will try and play that. There's almost like it's a supernatural type thing that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Human beings are supernatural in their own right. Music as itself is a supernatural experience as well, and that's very releasing for a lot of people. Coming into a sonic atmosphere, they feel when they're open to it, they can feel as it fluctuates and it moves, and having a very, very, very like big theory understanding and coming from a theoretical aspect, we understand scientifically as well, how music moves people, how different intervals and how different sets of melodic intervals have a tendency with tension and release, and how those work and play out within us and within ourselves. So yeah, absolutely, it's very, very, very an opening experience. Music is a very, very powerful force.
Yeah, and like I said, I just find it interesting that I guess I never thought about it till like right now. I guess I kind of could relate to it a little bit more, because like when I think about putting together a wrestling match,
Yeah.
and I'm going to do something that I haven't done before, I kind of think like, will this work?
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably the same thing about music, in the sense that I vision a wrestling spot in my head, and will this work? For you, it's more of sounds of notes and melodies and how this works here, and structure, I guess. Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. I think, as me knowing.
Okay, so now I can probably relate.
Yeah.
Because before I was like, you guys are so God just puts this song in your head and you put it out. Like that's how music happens to me.
It's a language. In with any language, anything that you spend your time with, it becomes a language to you. So I'm sure that there are, like me having the only wrestling experience that I have is being able to like going to WrestleMania when I was a little kid and watching Hulk Hogan come out. Like that was my whole wrestling. But to like when I hear you talk, there's so much going on behind, so much planning, so much thought that goes into it. Like you have a structure that you work out of. It's the same thing for a musician. When we get all this knowledge, we just have a structure that we work out of. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's that language that you communicate every day, even though it's not technically like a language that we speak. Like I speak English, or it is when we spend time with something, it becomes fluent like a language. And so absolutely, music is that. And I'm sure that any kind of art that you have, especially gymnastics. I'm sure there's a lot of gymnastics training that goes on with wrestling and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's with anybody that they pick anything up,
right.
A writer or anybody else. Like, I think that's the thing that, especially now that I start doing more stuff and start actively being aware,
Mm-hmm.
I am an artist in what I do.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And seeing people that aren't engaged in doing some sort of art, it's a weird, like, what do you do with your time? Like, how do you that? Because it's something that propels you through life.
Right.
It's like you have to do it, and it feels like there's these people that are like deemed as like, this is the thing that'll always be consuming your thoughts, and you then have to find a vehicle, a vessel, a platform to get this out. But then everybody else that doesn't have that, it's like, what do you do with your life? It's like how do you look at humans?
Yeah. I think everyone has their own thing that they kind of fall into.
I don't think some people do. Like,
I would. That's scary. I hope they do.
I think there's some people that walk around like, yeah, I have nothing.
I have honestly met a man who is a good friend of mine. A man, of course, he's a man, or he could be a woman, or
he's
she
a
could be a
being,
woman.
of some sort.
And
I think that's what you're trying to say. He's a being.
Yeah,
he's a human being of
human
some
being.
sort.
I have met a human being.
Yes. We're not talking about you having a conversation with a dog or a horse or anything of that nature.
Sure. My friend, and he doesn't like music. He doesn't listen to it. It is for me. It is. I've even questioned. Like I've tried to get to what happens and like what, and try to explain this. And he's just like, it doesn't do anything for me. But when it comes to business and marketing, like that's his thing. Like that's what makes it. And I say, oh, so this is your connection. This is your music right here, being able to orchestrate these kind of things, and so yeah, I guess that is in its own right, that is his art. So I guess we all have we try to find that thing. I haven't met anyone who just doesn't do anything. I wouldn't know what to say to that person who's just like, I don't like anything, I don't have any passion about anything. I wouldn't know what to do in that moment.
I don't know how to relate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like you and me can, like I said, we 5 minutes we've already made a connection between the two things we do.
And that's the human being connection, man. That's the beautiful thing about human beings is we find things that we can relate to in other human beings, and that's beautiful. And so if we can relate, mine is music and yours is wrestling, I think if we can find parallels on that, and I think that's a great thing. And more people should be open to finding parallels with different people. you might learn something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, like I said, you're very open individual, and like you're heartfelt. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've always been a good guy. You know what I'm saying? And like now, I don't know where that comes from. Like who. Like for me, I obviously have to drill into my head, like, no, you have to be very positive and stuff like that, and that comes from something. But it seems like you've always, I don't know if you've always been this person that's always been very, very open to what the world has to offer and what other human beings have to offer.
It's a long journey, and
Well, have you always, like I said,
No,
has George Banda always been this wonderful, happy person, or was there a dark day?
No. I think for all those out there who do listen to this and who have struggled with depression and anxiety, there is another day. There is also hope, and keep positive. I wasn't always this way. I grew up with a very troubled family life, and it was very difficult to be yourself in a berating kind of family environment. But one of the things that I've realized, and why I've become more open, is you can't walk around that way. You can't walk around closed off to everything. People, in my experience, or just me in my experience, let me just take myself. I used to walk around with a closed fist. And this is, a universal, like, mind. This is a grip. This is when I would walk around with all this, like, no one could get in.
People understand that.
Yeah, this is the way I would carry my emotions. This is the way I would carry myself. So I was like, no one's going to get in, but what I was realizing is nothing was getting out either. So this was actually a big epiphany for me, was when I saw myself like a fist, and I said, oh, well, I was like, oh, that's a symbol of power, fist. Yeah, I can be as brute and as cold and as hard as I want to be. But then when I began to realize, as I started to look introspectively, and that everything that I had that I believed in myself and that was good wasn't getting out to anyone else. And so that's when I started to begin to open up and realizing now this is a universal, like, sign of, like, hey, I'm giving you something, or you can put something in. So that is the way I viewed it. I don't know. That might sound a little weird.
No, not at all. And I'll tell you why, to bounce off to explain that to you as well. Long time for me, like, I didn't walk around with a fist like that, but for whatever reason, I always looked mad. Like, I would be at, like, especially a lot of college parties. I remember people going, hey, man, calm down. Like, people thought I was starting fights when I was like, no, this is just my regular standard mode of operation right now.
Right.
And for me, and I think I just, like, probably was realizing a little bit while we were talking, because, like, obviously there's cues that I'm giving, because, like you said, the closed fist, like, every culture, whether we speak the same language or understand this is an act of aggression. Yeah. Everybody understands that. I think maybe for me, I've been always about no wasted motion, straight ahead, or forward. But I remember somebody saying to me that I have really good posture. And I feel like that's where that comes from, is that sense of always ready, alert, and to drive forward.
Right.
But the only problem is I'm driving forward. I'm not looking around at the things that are happening.
Right. Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision. And that's what happens when I get angry, frustrated, overworked, overloaded. And that's exactly what happens. So it's just those emotional cues and those physical cues that are giving off the things that are going on. Right. But when you made that epiphany, like, how old were you?
I was rounding probably my mid-20s. I'm in my late 20s now, so it wasn't that long ago.
Okay, so you got there a little bit earlier than I did.
But I think everyone's journey is different, and not rushing any part of your journey. Oh, that's such a hard thing to say.
No, but it is so true. It is
such a hard thing to say.
It is so true.
Speaking honestly, it's a difficult thing to say. You can't. How many of us are patient?
Yeah. None of us are.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It takes work to be patient. So you're right. It is a
And I think it's something that this younger generation, and I know you do a lot of work with like kids and stuff like that, and trying to teach. And I've just started to teach. We have a lot of, like, students that are at a wrestling school.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to think it's awesome. It takes up a lot of time.
That's awesome.
I'll take that. People are trying to sell me on it. It's kind of a bad news bear situation right now where I'm reluctantly forced into it. But it's that sense of like this younger generation. It's almost like it's so weird now where I see kids like videotaping themselves during practice and like Instagramming and then posting it on like social media. Then I'm like, why are you putting that out there right now? What you're working on right now, the spot isn't finished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why are you just going to put this out there right now? Why don't you wait till you get it right and it's done and it's good? Like, but everybody's like, oh, no, everything's going to be perfect right now and I got to put it on the world right now. You know what I'm saying? But there's no that time, the opportunity to suck. You know what I'm saying? Like, that time where, like, I was just awful and I didn't know anything. Those always seem like when we start to figure stuff out. But I feel like the younger kids now, the early kids are in their early 20s, they have no concept of that part even existing.
I think that has to do with culture, man. I think because in this as we get more, and I'm not trying to go off on some
No, please do.
radical
I'm all about radical ideas.
I observe the younger generation and at the same time have to observe myself.
Yes.
Because that is introspection, and being able to observe around you is important. Like they go hand in hand, because you start looking outside so much and you never check back in your side, you will always find yourself going with whatever's going around. So I look at it and everything is now. Our span of being entertained is always, give me that next thing. I don't want to work for it. I just want it. And that's not the case for everyone. And there are very, 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 very talented people out there, but I guarantee you, talent will only take you so far. It's character that's going to drive the rest of the way. It's good character, good intentions, to practice and be diligent at what you're trying to create. That's going to eventually show up. And some people get there a little bit quicker. Their journey to that next plateau for them in their life, or not plateau, or next landing point, is a little quicker. Some are longer. But I think the lessons are all the same. Is being able to enjoy that from point A to point B in your life, and understanding, like, well, what did I learn out of this? What did I get? In your case, you were saying, well, give them time to suck. I think sucking is important.
Absolutely. I'm doing that right now with comedy right now. I've got 5 more years of this now.
And to your credit, and if I may, from the first time I saw you to even watching you perform tonight, is leaps and bounds. Leaps and bounds, man.
Oh, thank you.
And it's because you took that time to say, I'm going to get on stage, and I don't, and then you have those awkward moments, and you have those frustrating moments, and you learn from it, you take it away. I've walked away from many performances shaking my head, putting my hand on my face, and going, what was that? What I always realized, what I never got was from anyone else, was like, why did you do that? That was so terrible for you. Like, why? No one ever says that. What I do hear is, hey, man, good job. And then some of it might be like, I don't want them to feel bad, but when you come and your good friends are listening to you, they see the journey that you're on, and they can appreciate those moments where you just don't have it together. And I think that is when you begin to look and be like, hey, that's okay. You didn't have it right now, but you have something to shoot for next time. Mm-hmm. Or what like when in a performance, I'm thinking, if I mess up, no one else notices I mess up. I'm the only one who realizes it, but I also go back and say, hey, what caused that to happen, and how do we not let that happen again? So those are the important things to get out of sucking. I think sucking is important. So
yeah, I totally agree. Like, everything that I've ever done, I've sucked at for quite some period of time. Like I said, I know I've got years, but all this, at the same time, it's almost comforting. It really is, like especially now that I'm embarking on something that I know that's going to be a long journey. But at least I know that, like, with wrestling, I was like, oh, you got a ticking clock, that is, on your body. Like, my body's going to expire. Where at least with, like, comedy, like, I could do this when I'm in my 50s.
You can, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing too, is like, oh, I've got time.
You can do that to your hundreds.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? As long as I still remember my act, I think I'll be all right. But I mean, that's the thing that, like, George Burns, and then you look at somebody like Mel Brooks. But also too, like, you talk about people that take a longer time to their journey. like I was just listening to like Ron Perlman on Mark Maron's podcast today, and he said he didn't even get to a point where people even like he was famous or people recognized him when he was in his 50s. And he said everything up until his 50s was waiting for the phone call.
Wow.
And I think also a lot of thing too, people don't talk about like a body of work.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like David Bowie when he passed away. Like I knew a couple songs. I was fully aware of David Bowie. I understand he was important, but I never took the time to listen to like all of his songs in his entire catalog. But of course, when he passed away, it was popular for people to go through on iTunes, and then I started picking out like a dozen or so songs, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I live my life without all these? And they're all from like different eras, and they're different songs, and they're different things and different styles. And so I now have this entire body of work to look at somebody. You know, I did the same with Johnny Cash, and it's like that's an artist that I will always listen to. And it's like nobody thinks about the long body of work. You know, like let's say you do make it when you're in your 50s. But you've been making stuff since you were in your 20s. Right. And then when people discover you, guess what? I have 20 EPs. I have 20. I have all this body of work. Like is that really is that something that crosses your mind? Like
absolutely. You know? Yeah, absolutely. That thought of it comes down to that patience thing, that perseverance thing. It comes down to sucking a long time. Because again, in this day and age, we want this next thing. We want this next thing. One of my things that my father instilled in me is always remain teachable. Always be teachable. You'll go far. You will do great things. And I think that humility that comes out of remaining teachable and being able to see that, you know what, this might not be in this moment. This might take 5 years. And being teachable to that idea and molding yourself around those thoughts. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. I want to be discovered. I want to go out. I want to take over the world. These are my dreams. These are my aspirations. I want to be in every household. I want people to know my name. I want people to love my music. That is my goal. That is, I would love to be able to help humanity with the songs that I write or with the things that I put out that emanate from myself. But that is a
lofty goal.
Yeah, and it's going to take time, and time is the most precious commodity that we have. It is the most precious thing we have. You can have all the money in the world, you can have every desire that you want, but time catches up with everyone. Like you were saying, your body, you're absolutely right. There will be a time that you won't be able to do those backflips off the top turnbelt, and
mostly front falls. Backflips not so much. Front falls onto my head. Do that all day. It's the backflip thing. That's when I realized I couldn't do that. That's when I needed to come up with an exit strategy, because there are a lot of kids right now that are wrestling right now. Whew.
I think it was on one of your channels. I was scrolling through as I saw your advertisement for your big performance coming up, and this guy who was just an amateur wrestling arena, and this guy did a backflip off of this other guy who was just kind of hanging out next to a post. He just climbed up his body and like backflipped. And I was like, whoa. You know?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he won't be able to do that for the rest of his life, or hopefully he can. You don't know. Like this day and age, we might be able to. Technology's catching up, and with being able to live longer and stuff like that. But maybe I would hope so. I'd hope that you were at 96 years old, jumping off the turnbelt and just.
Oh, the hope is they hurt themselves and then I move up. There's a little bit of that in pro wrestling. Oh, too bad you hurt your knee. Okay, well I guess you need a spot.
But injuries. I've suffered musical injuries.
How so? Well,
not many people know about this.
Well, then let's get into it.
Yeah, musical injuries. I play so much. I practice. Like when I get done here, I'll go and sit in my room for another 5. Seriously, another. Well, let's be honest, 3 to 5 hours some days. I'll just sit there and work on my guitar, work on my skills, work on this, work on that, with breaks in between. But there was a time when I was younger that I would just get too ambitious, or work and work and work and work, and I wouldn't pay attention to what was going on with my body, and I developed tendonitis, and I couldn't play for almost the better part of 6 months, and that was difficult time for me. So that happens to musicians, especially professional ones. You know, we are very aware of our bodies as well, because you still need your hands to play guitar,
especially your voice too.
Yeah, your voice is a very, very big one. Very big one.
What are some things you do to protect your voice?
Warming up. Surprisingly, singing your notes. That's part of my training that I had, though, is warming up is very important. And any singer will tell you. It's absolutely, I'm sure you just don't go straight from get out of bed and go straight into the wrestling ring. I'm pretty sure there's a warm-up process in there.
I do now.
Stretching.
Before, when I was a young kid, I would just jump out of the car and just go and do it. Now there's a whole process before,
right.
The whole process after.
Right.
Like, it's very strategic how I do everything.
Right,
now,
yeah, it's
sure.
the same thing. It's the same thing. Anything that becomes your profession, you need to warm up some. Yeah, having that kind of mindset as well, of not making sure, like this, I want to play the guitar for the rest of my life. I want to be on my deathbed. Actually, I don't want to die that way. That's a terrible way to die. I want to go out like exciting, but I want to be doing something.
Shot from a cannon playing your guitar. I'll deal with that. Maybe not so much in the hospital bed, but maybe,
Yeah, skydiving.
Skydiving.
Guitar. I don't know. Who knows? But
sinking on the Titanic 2, playing.
I've actually heard about that. They're making a Titanic 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Sidetracked. Apologize. It was an important subject.
It was.
I loved that movie when I was a kid.
Still never seen it. I am trying to be the only person in the world that's never seen it. I don't have a lot of goals in my life. I feel like that's a pretty attainable one, or at least easy to go after. So, like I said, it's weird goals.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's going okay.
Well, I wish you luck on that endeavor. That sounds like a noble goal to
strive for.
Right.
Yeah. I'm keeping up the good fight. I feel like every day. But no, like I was kind of lost where I was going to go here, but we were because we got sidetracked.
We did. I love to rabbit trail, but you know what? I anyone who hears this podcast, I want them to know that we're human beings. Yeah. We're not sitting here with a script and ask me this question and I asked you that question. Man,
you did want me to email like a whole list of questions I might ask. That was a little odd.
I don't remember that. I didn't do that. I'm looking at the camera right now.
I'm merely playing with you, George. I asked you on the street corner last night, and you said yes. That's basically how we ended up. This is one of the easier ones I've booked.
I love human interaction.
I do too.
And
this is the only time I interact with people, really, to be quite honest.
Whoa.
It really is. I don't interact with anybody else any other time.
But you have a girlfriend, so.
I do, but I probably only spend like 14% of my week with her. Probably. Ooh. Like that's why we've been together for almost 4 years. Because we rarely see each other. That's the key. Like that's the funny thing is like she runs a female wrestling promotion that does work with my boss and my employer, and my boss on Monday was like, hey, next time you talk to your girlfriend, can you tell her this and this comes up? It's really important that you talk to her as soon as you see her. And I go, okay, well, the next time that we're going to be awake and seeing each other will be Wednesday. So
wow.
I'll relay the message then, or you could text her right now. Which whatever. You let me know whatever's faster.
So I'm not trying to interview you, but I'm interested just in. I'm sure your podcast followers know this, but I want to know like what wrestling. Where did that spark come? That for you, like, because I see it in you. I see it in your face. In your ads. I see it. When you talk about it, your whole like lighten up, like you love it. Where did that spark come from for you?
Well, it's how it's weird because music you could just pick up the guitar, but like you could have been a guy that works at a bank and plays guitar and that's after work and they're express. But the fact that you took it a little bit further, that's a thing in life. Now, wrestling is something you had to like hunt down and find, and it's this mystical thing that you've got to figure out. And like, I didn't know that independent wrestling, at the level of wrestling that I do, existed until I was in college. I wasn't exposed to it whatsoever. I thought it was just on TV. So my idea of being a pro wrestler is you went to the University of Miami, Jim Ross watched you do the bench press a couple of times, and all of a sudden you were at Madison Square Garden. So obviously that's how my brain worked. That's how it goes. So I have to be a really good collegiate athlete if they ever want. So I did like track and field in
Nice.
college. But the thing is, as I noticed, but then I found a little wrestling school that was close to there, and I discovered independent wrestling, and that's how I started. That's how I started paying my dues. And for a long time, independent wrestling was not how guys got starts. Like, people would, like, they barred WWE, like, didn't hire independent wrestlers, and they even like picked on them and say, oh, it's just an indie guy, and they didn't get behind him. They were more interested like picking up collegiate athletes and make them professional wrestlers. But now that's changed. That's all changed. Now they pull from the indies because these guys have passion. They want to do it.
Absolutely.
And athletically, they're far superior to anybody they could teach in giving them a crash course.
Right.
But for me, there was like little things in my life that were like, oh, clearly this is like, I shaved my head bald for the first time because of Stone Cold Steve Austin was popular.
Right.
And I had a goatee, so like I basically looked like Stone Cold Steve Austin in high school, and I did during football season before a big football game, just to jack everybody up. So basically I shaved my head to get a bunch of attention, to get everybody, Jake looks like Stone Cold, to get everybody excited for this upcoming football game, and then one time I was introduced on the field for senior night, and I did the Chris Jericho, like there's just little things like that throughout life. I was like, yeah, I was meant to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love wrestling. I've spoken to you about this, but I grew up watching, again, I know everyone knows Hulk Hogan, but Bret the Hitman Hart,
That's my guy.
Macho Man Randy Savage. I was even in the NWO,
Yeah, it got really popular there about that time.
Right, NWO, and you had the red, the Wolf Pack, and you had the New World Order, just the black and the white, and I was always about, like, the Wolf Pack. Sting was on the Wolf Pack. Used to come down. Oh, man, I used to get super stoked. Nerd over here for wrestling, absolutely. And honestly, one of the coolest stories that I have was with a wrestler, and Ric Flair.
Oh dear God, I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and apologize for whatever he did, sir.
No, he was one of the sweetest men that I've actually met.
Okay, good.
He was.
I had to hold my breath there for a
second.
second.
He was really kind. He was going through a difficult time when his son passed.
Oh yeah, I knew Reed really well.
Yeah, that was really hard for him, and we had run into him. Me and my church team, we'd run into him at Paco's Tacos here in South Park, and this was right after that happened. And I remember we got down, and he was having some swelling in his feet, and we ended up praying for him, and everyone got up, and I was the last person to get up, and he just put his hands in between my ears and laid a kiss right on my head. So it was to see that kind of affection come from one of your heroes. Even when I was little, everyone knew about. It was being relatable. I think that's what we were, having that human relationship. I think that's what's beautiful, and so it just made me appreciate wrestlers even more so.
I mean, he is our Mickey Mantle. You know what I'm saying? He's got his flaws, but he's so gosh darn lovable.
Yeah, he's awesome. So.
But
yeah, man.
But yeah, there was always little things with wrestling, and I've gone through some issues with it's tough for me. You know what I'm saying? I think now that I'm at the end, it's kind of a strained relationship with wrestling. You know what I'm saying? You say that I speak with passion, which that kind of surprises me that I still do, because people know me as Jake just hates himself right now, but I get down on myself a lot about it, but I have to deal with that and reckon with that. But when you're with your music and stuff like that, has there been times you've gotten down? And,
absolutely.
And how do you pull yourself out of those moments?
You have to strip away all the preconceived notions of what you believe that you're going to do, what you feel like is owed to you because of this and that. When you get burnt out, in a sense, with something, is usually straining or trying to push it further than what it's supposed to be at the moment. And so when I have those moments in my life where I feel the pressure of, I just take a step back and remember the fundamental things of why do I do this? Well, first of all, I love it. And so I just kind of start back in that sense, in that place for me when I pick up a guitar. I go, hey, it's like having a conversation with an old friend, and any good friend, you're gonna go, like, things are messy. If you have a friendship, I know this is weird to relate playing guitar to friendship, but in the sense it works for me this way. Any good friendship that you're going to have is going to be messy. There's going to be times where you fight. There's going to be times where you're happy. There's going to be a lot of, these ebbs and flows that go on. And it's the same with your dreams.
Yeah.
They're
you're in a relationship
right,
with
absolutely.
Your dreams. Yeah.
And they have their own personality. And life likes to come around and just throw things your way and tries to mess things up. And when usually it's in those moments where you're trying to push something a little bit harder than you should, and you want to do it because ultimately it's good to push yourself, but sometimes there's a bad push, and usually that's when I find myself at the end of burnout, is when I'm pushing for something, and I just have to strip it back and remember, what is it about doing this that I love the most, and then I play a melody, bum ya da 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 dum ba da da dum, and I go, yeah, that's why, and I just immediately kind of start back at that place and then kind of progress from there. So it's just what we were talking about earlier. It's a journey, man, and
it's almost like expectations ruins that sometimes.
Expectations. But it's good to have expectations.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's not over expecting something. It just takes hard work, and sometimes that can be draining. So
it's almost like you just got to almost got to hold, like you said, the thing that you like about it. You got to hold that close,
right,
and then just be open to whatever that takes you. It seems like most people that do that it kind of works out well for them because they're willing to flow where it's going to flow. It's those people that sometimes get that tunnel vision and they head in this one place. They miss those opportunities.
I think that combination of those two things.
Yeah, you think so?
Because you need tunnel vision. If you want to progress and go far, you need to be able to shut out every distraction. But you also, I think it comes back to that looking inside of yourself too, looking deep down inside, and saying, all right, so being aware of where you are in the process, and it's not easy. It's hard. It's a learning thing. So that's one of the things that I've at least come to take away from my trials that I've faced with my dreams, almost feeling like they're going to fall right through my fingers, but coming back to the reason why I have those dreams, and that's because I have a good relationship and I love my music and I love my guitar. I'm my favorite musician.
And you have to be that. You have to be that. You have to have a certain amount of self-love.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I look at these people that are completely, utterly delusional, and I go, I wish I had a sixth of what you have. Because, if I just believed in myself just a sixth of that.
I mean, it's like John Lennon, man. John Lennon believed he was the best guitarist in the world. He just believed it. He believes he was the best in the world. And you know what? You'd be hard-pressed to find people who wouldn't believe that John Lennon was one of the best in the world. Mm-hmm. He believed it. He did that. And, I mean, so that's where.
But he didn't let the expectation of that probably chew him up.
I wouldn't know. That would be an interesting conversation.
Like he was overly obsessed about it. Like I think on this track I have to prove that I'm the best in the world.
Yeah, no. I think he was. I think you were in that sense, like he loved himself. That's where it stems from. You have to love yourself, because no one else. And I don't mean to sound brash, but no one else will love you the way you can love yourself. And you have to be able to appreciate who you are as an individual. You have to be able to be open with and honest with yourself. And it's in those places, in those moments, that you really begin to figure out who you are and your skills and your giftings, and you become confident in those things, and no one can take that away from you. People are going to come and go. They're going to leave you. They're going to abandon you. They're going to hate you. They're going to critique you. They'll always have something to say. But what it comes down to at the end of the day, when you're all by yourself and no one else is there, you are all you have. And if you're beating yourself up too, you will not survive. So one of the things that I've learned is that, and I'm still learning, is love yourself and love the moments that you're in. Love these moments, like this moment. I love this moment. I love this beautiful night we have. We're at a great venue. I love this moment. It's the only one I'm going to get at this time in my life. So being open and honest with that stuff, I think that's what kind of propels you and gives you the strength to get back up and do it again. And even if you fall, get back up and do it again. Because you love yourself enough to take care of yourself, but you also love yourself enough to pick yourself up and push forward. So
those are all wise lessons. Is that something you teach your students?
I try to instill in my students a sense of passion for who they are. But
which,
also,
by the way, you teach at the School of Rock.
I do teach at the School of Rock. I am the theory and composition teacher. We are such a great team. We work together so well. I am very, 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 very thankful to be there. I am. That was the first place that gave me a chance. Jill opened up and said, "Hey, we have a student, and he just graduated from the School of Rock. He's one of the best guitarists that I know as well. He's just fantastic, and you just watch people like change. So yeah, the School of Rock is fantastic. It's definitely my family. So yeah."
Well, that also too on top of teaching, you're releasing CDs now.
I did.
That's why I want to get to that.
I do. Oh man, I should have had one. I have them in my truck.
Listen. We'll you can give me one later. I'll put it up there in the intro. And
Absolutely.
Put it up all that stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great. I owe you one anyway. So
I would love to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, is the second song that you play tonight, is that on it? Because that is my favorite song you did. Let It Bleed. You want to see me bleed? Is that on there?
Oh no! That is that introspection song. No. That's Roll. That's a new song that I haven't released yet. I'm just kind of working it out still.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, that would make sense because I've seen you do it a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's been a little different every time.
Yeah. I'm still working it out.
Tonight was good, but like you did at the Muse recently, and just like. It hits me. I knew it's about a girl because usually about every one of your songs is about a girl.
Actually, this one isn't though. This one's actually not about.
But that song, like, it hits me about pro wrestling because the idea of like you just want to see me bleed. It's the idea of like you just want to see me in pain, much like in pro wrestling and stuff like that, and it feeds into like
that's awesome.
And then rumble down the road. I'm always traveling, so those little like parts of the lyric, that's what hits me on a level.
Whoa.
That just a very deep level.
That's awesome. That makes me very, very happy to hear. I'm glad that you're able to identify and relate to that.
And there's really a lot of your songs and stuff like that, especially probably on your new CD and stuff.
Yeah,
like
the
that.
new EP, there's a lot of emotion on there. At least 4 of the songs are written for or about women. So there's a lot of heartbreak and a lot of figuring things out at the same time. So,
but I like that. I like those little dark corners.
Yeah, those dark recesses of humanity is really interesting.
Yeah, like I like playing there sometimes. Only problem is I like playing there with comedy, and people usually don't laugh when I play around in those areas. But I think it's important to mess around in those because that's a full form of human being.
Oh, yeah, we need to. Well, if we deny that, then we are denying part of who we are. Come on, man. Human beings are beautiful even in their dark times.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to believe, especially when people break your heart. That's their dark time. They're usually going through something. You have to believe that they're still good.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard.
Sometimes you almost got to access like, what was this about? What happened here? Obviously, I got something out of this, but where do we go from here? Obviously, put together a song and access it through that way.
Yeah, put together a song and release it and say, that was for that one. She was terrible. Moving on.
Yeah. But how long did it take you to work on this thing? Like, I don't know. Like
I started in February or March. Maybe like March. Eric Button, Love and Croquet Records with, James. Us three together, we just went into a studio all the way in New London, North Carolina, and we just sat there and worked it out. Those two guys are awesome. They've become some of my best friends, and they gave me ideas and they helped me with putting it together. As Eric, in dollar signs. Being able, he had a lot of experience in that, and James having some, working on his, or works with a degree in engineering and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was a long process. It took several trips out there and reworking things and figuring this and figuring that, but eventually it all came to a head, and we were able to put it down. And so it was when I released it in August, the end of August. So it was March, 6 or 7 months of work. But it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, So
you happy with it?
Yes. It's my first CD.
Yeah.
Are there idiosyncrasies about it that I am a little aware of? Yeah, absolutely. There are things that I'm like, it's like if you were to watch your very first match, and you were to watch a match that you did like yesterday.
You're like, 20 years down the road, I'm going to be like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm already kind of there.
Oh, I just put together a 6-disc set of my career, and there were a lot of moments. And I had to even make fun of it, too. Like, I named certain discs, like, like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, clearly, like, I don't know what I was doing during this 2 hours of this disc. Don't judge me.
Right. No, yeah, so there's some stuff on the album that I'm not particularly fond of, but I am very, very happy that now the world can access my music. I'm on Spotify, I'm on Google Play, I'm on iTunes, I'm on Bandcamp, and all these other things.
Yeah,
I think
all the platforms that are available today, because it's a different game.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's a little bit more democratic.
Right.
In a sense, like the idea is like the cream will rise to the top is the theory.
Yeah, hopefully.
But there's a lot of cream out there.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, like that's
and
the
it's
thing.
Getting like picked.
Yeah,
and I hope that this album can make some headway with that and be able to inspire and hopefully captivate the people that listen to it at least somewhere. A lot of technical skill went into it. I worked on my classical skills for such a long time that I hope that reflects in this album, and also just kind of my heart and what I was going through at the time, especially with songs like Days Like Today or Allison Part 2, which is my favorite Allison Part 2. There's a story. First girl.
Did you say Allison?
Allison Part 2.
Oh my gosh, you had an Allison break your heart too?
I think everything is said in the song that I need to say about that situation, and
no wonder why we connect on such a level. I wrote it like what I did a joke tonight about a girl named Allison.
Really?
Yeah, the joke about getting engaged to your college girlfriend just to end an argument. That's true fact.
Allison's will break your heart. They can break your heart, but I think for me, everything that I needed to say was right there in that final song of the CD. So if there's one song that I would want people to listen to really get the full sense of what I'm trying to put across, is probably Allison Part 2. Just for Love is good and Waste is good as well. But for the most part, like Allison Part 2 is.
That's the meat. That's George Banda right there.
Yeah.
Listen
absolutely.
to that.
Absolutely. Listen to that.
That's what you're about.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's awesome. We're kind of getting towards the end here.
Awesome.
And I'm not going to let you off the hook.
Okay.
Even though it's been a fantastic conversation. And we've been kind of circling the drain about it, but that's kind of what this whole thing is about. Is basically to get you warmed up just ask you this question.
What's this question?
This question is the $1 million question.
Oh no.
And I basically sit down and have sat down and had conversations with almost 100 people now. And basically it all is leading up to ask this question of the topic of success. What does it mean to you when I say it? What comes to your mind? Do you think it's obtainable? Is a dollar sign attached to it? Does it relate to your feeling? Is it something else? Do you know exactly what it is? And are you working towards it every day? Basically, what I want is your general reactions when I say the word success.
Oh, success. One of the things I think we touched on earlier about success is being able to love yourself. I think that is where you can find true success in every endeavor that you go, is loving yourself, but also believing that other people love you too. We can't do this by ourselves. I know, like, one of the reasons that I feel like I am successful is because I know that my father, loves me. And that kind of negates anything else when it comes to, I look at all the wealth you have, or look at all of, if you can find success in knowing that you are loved and that you love yourself and that you love people, I think everything else is residual. Success for me would be finding peace within myself, happy, to be happy every day. To walk in joy and walk in peace within yourself. I think that is a good definition of success for me, is one of the goals that I have is in my future. But, there's monetary successes where people say, well, look at all this money that I built up, and that's successful in people's eyes. But I think it always comes down to just your personal self. And where is it in yourself that you can find that space where you're just like, yeah, here I am. And everything that you do from that place, in that place of love of yourself and knowing others around you, I think that's where you kind of let all those other things stem from. Does that make sense? Did that make sense? I don't know if I made sense.
No, it made perfect sense. And I feel like that's how I would like to be able to do whatever you want, be recognized for it,
right.
And then at the same time too, love yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. There's a part of me.
You'd want to be,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the point that like you're such a overwhelming force in the world of music that people look upon you. You know what I'm saying?
And to do something good with it.
Yeah, that's like a thing that I think of too. Is like if I could just get powerful enough to do good in this world.
Do something good about it. And be the change. And I know that might sound cliche, but be the change that you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this slogan that I kind of rolled with for a long time. It's love God, love people, change the world.
Oh, I like that.
And then go from there.
Can't argue with that, George. Can't, and I think that's a wonderful place to close. But before people log off and take the earbuds out, please take a quick second to tell people where they can, listen to your CD, get up with you, interact with you, find out about shows and performances and other things
absolutely.
about your life. So you have a hot microphone. Go to it.
You can find me again, George Banda, Banda. I usually say band with an A or panda with a B, with the A sound, because Banda. Mm-hmm. Spotify, George Banda, YouTube, George Banda, Apple Music, Google Play. You can find me at the Evening Muse on Monday nights. Sign-ups at 7:45, show at 8. Or you can find me at the Broken Spoke, which we are here right now.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic place. Love the people here. I host the open mic. It starts at 8:30 on Wednesday nights here, so you can catch me here.
Mm-hmm.
Petra's. I love Petra's.
Oh,
Petra's is fantastic. Perry's such a great person. And coming out, I have a show actually coming up, and It's at the end of October. I would be remiss if I can't remember the date. You can find me at Queen's University too.
Yeah, just just let me know. I'll plug it in the intro.
Yeah. So
or
I have
put it
shows
in
coming up. I have a big show coming up at Petra. Got an out of town band coming. I haven't looked at the details yet. I'm trying to get Normal Dennis to get on stage because Normal Dennis is fantastic.
He is fantastic.
Love Normal
God,
Dennis.
so
That's where you can find me, or just find me on Facebook, man. George Banda. I'm pretty relatable. I am a very opinionated person, so if you're a Hillary or Trump supporter, you probably won't like me.
So you're a sensible person.
I am sensible.
So you're a sensible person that can cut to the chase.
Yeah, I'm an educated person,
Exactly.
and I think that's what scares most of our politicians today. They don't want educated people
This-
with a
that's-
voice, especially.
This is
So,
true.
Anyways, that's where you can find me.
Big arc for a political conversation.
There is the plug. That was it right there.
We started and we ended with it.
Right.
George, thank you so
Thank
much for
you
taking
so
time.
much.
out of the
I
day.
appreciate it. It's you're fantastic, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. I hope that the viewers enjoyed our conversation, and something good comes from it. I believe something good will come from it.
I
So,
believe so. Yeah.
absolutely. So.